So today I'm making something that I've never made on this channel before. I'll be making a pair of denim pants, which feels kind of ridiculous to say because I have been sewing for almost a decade and I have never sewn a pair of denim pants. Ever. And the only reason why I've decided to do this right now is because I'm kind of going through a little burnout phase and I really needed a sewing project that would make me excited to sew. As you guys might know, I love pattern making. I feel like I love pattern making even more than the sewing part itself, but I don't have a lot of experience with drafting tighter fitting pants, so this is definitely going to be a little challenge for me. And it's exciting because it's something new, and also because finding pants that fit me properly is kind of a challenge. I have a pear-shaped body and I'm also very tall, so pants never really fit me the way that I want them to. One of the only pairs that actually fit me in a way that I like is this pair right here. I feel like the style is a really good fit for my body type, but even this one doesn't really fit me perfectly. So today I'm gonna try my best to recreate this one, but making the pattern from scratch and using my own body measurements. I really like the way that this one looks, but I can't really buy another one right now because I actually bought it on my trip to London. I usually don't really buy new clothes, but I feel like one of the very few exceptions that I make is for denim pants because that's something that I have never really been able to make at home. And because finding ones that fit me at thrift stores is a little bit more complicated as well, but I want to change that. I want to learn how to make my proper denim at home so I don't have to buy it anymore, and so I can make sure that it will fit me properly. So here we have the pants. I made a little board with resources and the inspiration photo and all of that. And as you can see, they are a little bit more cropped on me than they are on the model, which makes sense because I am around 181 centimeters tall. For the Americans out there, this is basically like 6 feet tall. And the thing is, I have always hated cropped pants on me. I really love how they look on other people, but whenever it came to me, it just never really felt as if it was intentional. It always just felt like they were ill-fitting, which was the case most of the time. But after trying these pants on, that kind of changed. I really liked the way that they looked. So my plan is to keep that design detail on the pair that I'm going to make as well. I do think I'm going to make them a little bit longer because I can always crop them. So if I prefer them longer, I can leave them longer, but my intention right now is to make them cropped as the one that I have. And another thing about these pants is that they don't actually have a side seam. Like, look here, this is the side. There isn't a single seam. It just, they don't only have a seam on the front and on the back crotch and the inseam. The side is one full panel, which I think is going to make it a little bit more complicated for the waist shaping part because, as I said, I have a pear-shaped body. So my hips are usually like 2 sizes bigger than my waist on the standard size charts. So I usually have to take in a lot at the waist, and since I will only be able to take in from the front and the back crotch, I'm kind of scared that it's going to make it harder. But these ones work. So I already have like the proof that it can work. And I think part of the reason why it kind of works is because they are not super high-waisted. They're like mid-rise, not mid-rise, mid-rise. So as you can see, I wrote down some of the details. They are mid-rise. They show my belly button and also the belly button of the models on the website. They are cropped, but a little bit more cropped on me than they are on the models. They don't have a side seam. They have those really cute patch pockets. They don't have like the usual denim pockets like this, which I think will be easier to conceal the darts because they do have darts on the front and on the back, and the pockets are right on top of it. So I am assuming that if anything, I can just make the darts a little bit wider. And they also have pretty wide legs, which is a look that I really like. As you can see, they're a lot more tighter on my thighs. So the shape gets a little bit more flared at the bottom. I think it's because they're tighter here than on the model. So I'm gonna try to also take that into consideration when I draft a new pair. So the legs look a little bit straighter as I guess they are supposed to look. Now for the fabric, I'll be using this one that I found at a clearance bin at my local fabric store. It was like 10 reais, which is currently less than $2. I have no idea what the fiber content is for this one. It just looks like denim from the outside and it's very stretchy, which is great because it's my first time making this type of tight-fitting denim pants, so the stretch will really make any possible mistakes a lot more forgiving. And I am very excited to tackle this project and hopefully finally learned how to make pants that fit me properly. And I'll show you how I drafted the pattern in a moment, but before we go into pattern making, I'd like to take a moment to talk about the sponsor of today's video, Skillshare. Skillshare is the largest online learning community with thousands of classes around so many different fields. Sewing, fashion design, illustration, photography, and honestly, anything that helps you grow as a creative person. The classes are taught by world-class creatives like professional illustrators, graphic designers, and entrepreneurs. For this time, I decided to go back into learning how to make my own prints, so in the future, I can make my clothes even more personalized. So I took 2 different classes, Surface Pattern Design Fundamentals by Mel Armstrong and Intro to Surface Pattern Design, Learn Adobe Illustrator by Bonnie Christine. I love how both of these classes gave me a really good understanding on how to make my own print. Both classes break everything down in such a practical, usable way. Mel's class gave me a really solid foundation, especially the part about building motifs in a way that actually tiles correctly. And Bonnie's Illustrator class helped me learn a little bit more about the software and how to clean up my sketches to turn them into patterns that look very professional. It will make things go very smoothly now. And very soon, I plan to share with you guys my small collection of prints and also tell you what I plan on making with each one of the fabrics. During the Black Friday sale, I bought like 10 meters of fabric to be personalized, and I'm very excited to see my own prints on them and also decide what I'm gonna do with them, so stay tuned. And if you'd like to join me and start learning or perfecting a new skill, the first 500 people to use my link in the description or to scan the QR code on the screen will receive a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. And the plus is that you can also enjoy the end of the year spirit and gift a Skillshare membership to one of your loved ones. Thank you, Skillshare, for sponsoring today's video, and now let's go to pattern making. I know a lot of people prefer to just trace the pants to just get the pattern out of it, but I really don't think that it will be reliable with this one. Since there's no side seam either, I feel like tracing it would just distort everything and would be harder for me to know where the grain line is and all of that. It could work a little bit better if I seam ripped the whole thing, but I am obviously not going to do that. So instead of tracing, I'm just going to draft everything from scratch using my own basic pants block with my own body measurements, and then I'm going to alter what I have to alter to make it into this design, which is the method that I usually do. The only difference this time is that I actually have the piece that I'm trying to recreate at home instead of looking at photos of it on Pinterest, because this way I can basically make sure that it will fit me properly, and it can also be a really good pattern making learning experience, which wouldn't really happen if I had just traced it. So I'll be starting today with a basic pants block, but I have to let you guys know one thing. All of the methods that I had tried before, which are the standard methods of pattern making, they never really worked for my body type. For some reason, whenever I made a pants block following the exact guides, they would never turn out looking proper on me, and that's why you don't really see me making pants that often. But I really wanted to get better at this, so I decided that I would sit down and do my best to just crack the code. But it turns out I didn't actually have to crack the code myself, because as I was doing a lot of research on pants pattern making, I found this YouTube channel called Dress Pattern Making. The creator's name is Maria, and she has this playlist where she teaches you how to draft the basic pants block for bodies that aren't the standard. And I mean standard according to the traditional formulas and all of that. And when I followed her method, it was the very first time where I ended up with a pants block that fit me properly, or well, fit my avatar on Clothes 3D very well. We'll see about the real me later down in the video. She explains everything with a lot of detail, and she's also very passionate about pattern making, so I really wanted to give her channel a shout out, because she was the one who made pants pattern making make more sense to me, because a lot of the measurements on a lot of those methods are just assumed. The books didn't really explain why, but she did. I bought her ebook to support her that has the most updated version, but she also has a playlist that teaches you how to make it on her YouTube channel. I'll leave her YouTube channel and her website in the description of the video. If you have a non-standard body type and you have struggled to make pants pattern before, or if you struggle to find pants that fit you or patterns that fit you, I really recommend checking her method. Okay, with all of that being said, now let's go to my computer so I can show you all of the alterations that I made to the block to transform a basic pants block into this type of denim pants without any side seams and wide legs. So here's the basic pants block that fit me really well. I had to do a small seat alteration here. So the actual line that you should pay attention to is actually this one here. Anyways, and this is the alteration that I made for the pattern. Now let me show you what I did. The side seam I considered to be a straight line. So I used the widest part of the hips, which is this point right here, to create a straight line to the side. And that would be the side seam, even though it's not going to be a side seam in it, which is this red line right here. And I know this is going to look kind of confusing, but stay with me. So here at the top we have the waist shaping. We have to enter to the side seam at the side and also at the center front, and add a dart so we can go from our widest part, which is our hip, to our waist. My reasoning behind it was that I needed to drag this point right here all the way to here, so it would be a straight line to the hip. And then, since this would be bigger, I would have to adjust it by making the darts wider and maybe also altering the center front. I personally preferred to alter the shape of the darts because once I tried it on Clo3D, that's what looked better on the avatar. So here we have it. I widened the hip so it would be a straight line. This is line here. And I made the darts way wider to compensate, and I also made the darts way longer because since that was the placement of the pocket would end up covering the pointy part of the dart, and it would compensate a little bit more the fact that the darts were really wide. This was after doing some testings on Clo3D. This is the shaping that worked better for my body. And for the back, after doing that seat alteration that shifted this right here, as you can see, there isn't a lot that I need to move to the side anyways. It was already almost vertical here. But I also ended up making the darts wider and longer. Now, since the sloper, the basic pants block, is made for a high-waisted pants, and this is kind of like mid-rise, I lowered 5 centimeters from my natural waist. And I also made the legs a little bit wider, as you can see here, because it will keep following that side hip line here. And here we have the actual pattern pieces. When I cut the fabric, I'm going to place them like this, like overlap. I decided to make them into 2 separate pieces just in case my fabric isn't wide enough, and then I'll have to add a side seam just in case it's here. I also added a pretty wide hem. I made the pants a little bit longer than the previous pair that I have because I wanted to see if I actually preferred the look of it being a little bit longer, but I added, I think 6. I added 6 centimeters for the hem, but I also made the length a little bit longer. And for the placement and the size of the pockets, I just basically measured the pants that I have, and I added 3 centimeters for the fold at the top and 1 centimeter all around. And these pants don't have a waistband, so I'm going to draft the waist facing later because I want to check the fit first. But here I marked the placement of the buttons. I just copied it from the pair that I have, and here is a mark to represent where the zipper actually starts. And I made this point with a wider seam allowance so I can attach the front fly later. I'm not drafting the pattern for the front fly because I already have some other front fly pattern here that I think is gonna work. But this is basically it, and it wasn't as difficult as I thought it was going to be, but I had to do a lot of testing and back and forth on Clo3D just to make sure that the lines will work better. Like, as you can see, this is the red line that I used in the end. I had to take in a little bit from the front because it was a little bit too loose. But in the end, I'm very satisfied with the way that it looks on the software. I have a feeling that it's really going to work out. There is a positive side of making the pattern on my computer, that is checking the fit with Clo3D so I don't go into it completely blind. But the downside is gluing all the sheets together. If you know, you know. It's all very simple work, but it's kind of boring, so I put a TV show on to distract me. And while I was laying the fabric out, I noticed the first major issue with this project. The fabric was damaged, and I did not notice that before. There was a tiny hole in it and a pretty big stain right in the middle of the yardage. At first I thought I could get away with cutting it off, but the pattern piece was way too big, so I tried everything. I spent way too long trying different placements to avoid it. I even considered cutting the pattern piece in half, but it just wasn't possible. No matter how I rotated the pieces, it always ended up inside the pants. And that was a real bummer because I drafted the pattern considering the stretch of this exact fabric. But in the end, I decided to cut it anyways. It ended up being placed on the back of my leg between the knee and the calf. It's pretty small, but it's still there. So my reasoning was, if I absolutely love the pants in the end, I'll add a little patch detail over it. And if I don't love the fit, then it was still good practice anyways, and I'll remake the pants with a different fabric later, altering anything that I need to alter. Before attaching anything else, I decided to baste the pants together, so I'll sew the darts, then the front crotch, back crotch, and inseam, so I could try the pants on and see the fit. I did this because the pockets sit right on top of the darts, and if the fit was wrong after everything was already attached, it would be torture to unpick all of that later.
So I would rather base the whole thing, try it on, fix what I need to fix, and only then move forward with all of the other details like the pockets and the front fly. So this is the first try on. As I expected with the stretch this fabric had, the waist was a little bit loose, especially at the center back and around the front darts. I marked everything with chalk so I could adjust the pattern before continuing, but I honestly felt such relief here because pants are kind of always unpredictable, and the fact that the fit only needed a small little tweak made me feel like things are definitely going to work out. And now that the fit is right, I can finally start the real sewing. I am folding the pocket edges, ironing them, and measuring the placement on the pants. I only seam ripped the inseam and the front crotch. I kept the back crotch sewn, which I honestly think it was a mistake. And I never do this because I'm always way too lazy, but this time I decided to hand baste the pockets in place because I think sewing these pockets with just pins would be way too challenging since the bottom is curved and all of that. So I decided to try it even though it took more time. And yeah, I guess everyone was right. Basting made the sewing part so much easier. I will probably do it more often from now on. Oh, and about the top stitching thread. The other day I was very lucky. I found a bunch of top stitching threads at the thrift store and they were so cheap and they had so many colors there. And I had the intention of using them on this project, but after testing the ochre and the white on this fabric, I don't know, it just didn't feel right. So I stayed with black thread instead. And maybe when I make a second pair, I will use the top stitching thread. For the fly pieces, I'm using the ones from the fabric store free pattern, the Sarah pants. I made these pants in the second episode of my Sewing on Pinterest board series. They fit almost perfectly with these pants. I just had to cut off 1 centimeter at the top. I'm using the exact same method that I used last time, but I will not be explaining it step by step here because it would take too long, so I'll leave the detailed tutorial in the description. I think this time I finally got the hang of stalling a front fly. I haven't done it many times before, so I needed to repeat the steps to remember, but now I feel like I will not forget it anymore. I'm still a tiny bit intimidated by fly zippers though, so if you ever feel like you're the only one, you're not. And also, this fly was way harder than it needed to be because I left the center back seam sewn. I was scared of opening it since the fit was already really good, but honestly, don't do that. Don't do what I did. Just open a seam. It will make your life easier. And these pants don't have a side seam, so after that I'm just sewing the inseam, and I wanted to check the fit one more time just to be sure. They don't have a facing yet, so the top edge is still unfinished, but I was honestly really happy with how they looked here, and I still wasn't sure about the length. I preferred it shorter, but when I asked for opinions, I was told that the longer hem looked a little bit better. I don't know. There are still tiny things that I would tweak for the next time, but for a first trial of a pants pattern like this without a side seam, I was really proud of myself. I had never drafted this kind of pants before, so seeing it actually fit my body at this stage made me really happy. And I decided to only draft the waist facing after the pants were fully assembled and fitting correctly because I didn't have a lot of fabric to work with, so if the fit was wrong, I would be in trouble. So I traced the top of the pants, I measured 3.5 centimeters down, and I added the seam allowances, so 1 centimeter at the top and at the bottom. Then I closed the darts on the paper, I drew the curves so nothing was too pointy, and I cut the facing out of the tiny piece of fabric that I had left. I didn't have enough fabric to cut the facing as 2 continuous pieces, so I added side seams and I labeled everything so I wouldn't get confused. F for front, B for back, C for center, and S for side. It made sewing much easier later because the pieces were way too similar. And now attaching the waist facing, you can't see properly on screen, but I overlocked the seam and then I understitched it so it would stay on the inside. And I also hand tacked the facing to the darts the same way that the original pants were finished. For the hem, I decided to go with the shorter length because I really like to crop, so I measured 7.5 centimeters from the bottom. I pressed 1.5 centimeters first and then I folded again along the line to get the final length. The hem was pretty thick, so I think it helps with the wide leg look.
And this is how the pants ended up looking like. Let me get back so you can see. Doo-doo-doo. The waistband, The pockets are pretty deep. It fits a lot of stuff in here, including my phone at the front. I don't even remember where the little hole is. Oh. This is so awkward. And here is the little hole stain thing. I think when I am pretty far away, you don't even notice it, but I have really good news. I actually found almost the same fabric for me to remake it. The color is a little bit different. This one is more purple-ish, while this one is a little bit more greenish. But the stretch is pretty much the same, so I am definitely remaking these pants again. And this time I have more fabric. I have 2 meters, so it's more than enough. But I'm definitely gonna still be wearing this one, just not like outside, because it's pretty comfortable, so I can even wear it inside my house and it's fine. Definitely not right now though. It's so hot today. Summer is finally here, which means my piece is over. Summer in Rio is no joke. It's really, really hot. So I am melting because the windows are closed and the door is closed, so there is no wind. Okay, I turned on the fan. I hope the wind is not catching too much. I don't know. Never mind. But this new pair, I'm gonna try to make sure that I make it perfectly. I'm gonna try to make it with flat fell seams and use bias binding instead of an overlocker. I'm very excited because I think it's gonna look even better than this one. But I have a question for you guys. What do you think about the length? Because when I measured it, I actually liked the shorter one more, but I was barefoot, and now that I have shoes on, I don't know how I feel about this. I feel like it might be a little bit too short. I can still adjust the hem on this one anyways, like I can still make it longer because the hem is pretty long, like pretty thick. But for the new one, what do you think? Should I make it a little bit longer, or is this okay? Because I'm still kind of self-conscious about the fact that I'm very tall, so whenever I wear shorter pants, it never looks intentional. It just looks like they're ill-fitting. So I would want your opinion. And I know that the shoes don't match that well with the top, but these shoes are the Mary Janes that I actually made myself. And I haven't worn them outside yet, so they're clean and I'm not gonna be wearing dirty shoes inside my room. Maybe it would look better if I was wearing something that matched. But overall, I'm really pleased. I really want to make more pants now. The only thing is that there seems to be a little bit of fabric left over in the front crotch. So I think I'm gonna make a cut on the front crotch and overlap it a little bit because I can't really take it in now that it's done, like around here. I don't know if the camera is capturing it. And I also have a feeling that my tutorial this time wasn't that detailed, so I'm considering making a blog post so I can write down more details about the pattern making that I didn't say during the video, because I was rewatching the footage and I thought it was a little bit confusing. But yeah, if you'd like a blog post, let me know in the comments. And also, thank you guys so much for the comments that you left on my last video. It really, really meant the world to me. I might have cried a little watching some of them. They really gave me a lot of strength. I don't know, I just feel very lucky that I was able to find such a positive and sweet community here. You guys are always so nice to me in the comments, and I don't know, it kind of makes me feel like I have friends, even though I have never met any of you and most of you live in a different country. But thank you so much for being here. You guys really helped me through a pretty tough time. I'm not sure if there will be another video this year yet, so I wanted to wish you guys happy holidays and also happy new year. I hope 2026 will be filled with joy and happier moments. Through the comments last video, I saw that a lot of you are also going through a pretty tough time, so I honestly, from the bottom of my heart, wish you all the best. Things will get better, and I really hope to keep seeing you guys around next year as well. So see you. Bye.